Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. So in today's tutorial, I'll be teaching us how to make this maxi dress with pockets. It's a circle dress and it doesn't have any joining, and you can make this with either crepe or chiffon or satin or any fabric that drips perfectly. So let's get started. Now I have my basic dress pattern already drafted, but I'll just explain to us what I did to get the pattern. Okay, so to make this dress you need to know how to draft a basic dress, and basically you'll be marking half of your across back measurement. Okay, so you mark the across back measurement on the shoulder and on the chest line. Okay, then still on the chest line I marked quarter of my bust plus 1 inch for side seam allowance, and I marked the back and the front neckline, okay, together on the same pattern paper, just to conserve paper. Okay, so you can see my front neckline is about 4 inches deep. Okay, then on the waistline I marked quarter of my waist plus 1 inch for that and side seam allowance. Okay, then on the hip line, quarter of the hip plus 1 inch. Then it's a floor length, so you mark the same thing on the hemline, the same thing you mark on the hip on the hemline. So now I'm going to mark half of my bust span. Your bust span measurement is the distance from one nipple to the other. Okay, so mine is 8, half of that is 4, so I'm going to mark 4. Then I'll use my ruler to connect the 3 points together. So I'll be using my long ruler to do that, okay, just to avoid any errors. So I'll link it together from my bust point line down to the hemline. Okay, so to construct my darts, I'll come up by I'll mark ½ inch on both sides of the line. Then I'll come up by 1 inch or 1.5 inch on the hip line. Then I'll construct my darts towards the waistline. So that's why I said you should add 1 inch to the waistline for darts. Okay, so I'm just drawing out my darts. Then my darts will stop 1 inch before the bust point line. So I'm just constructing my darts this way and that way, right? Then next is to create a bust dart so that you can create an opening. Okay, so from the bust point line, my shoulder to my bust point is 10.5. That is the shoulder to your nipple. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch on my bust point line. Then I will draw my bust dart. So 1 inch is fine. If you're a plus size, you can do 1.5 inch, but 1 inch is just fine. Okay, so now that I've done this, let me cut off the remaining excess of my paper. So this is my armhole there. I'll try and search the previous videos for where I did a detailed tutorial on how to draft the basic dress. Okay, so this upper neckline is the back and the lower one is the front. This is the front. Okay, so now I would be cutting this on fold, and this pattern will serve as both front and back. Okay, so I will cut out now, starting with my bust dart. I'll stop at the bust point. Then next I will trim off the waist dart, but I'll start from the hemline. Okay, so I'm just trimming off the darts, and then I will close up my bust darts. So you can do this by using a masking tape. So I'll just quickly show us how to fold the fabric. Okay, so I have 4 yards of silk here. So for some people that are not very tall, you can fold your fabric along the grain. So you fold your fabric into 2, like this. So you fold your fabric into 2 like this, and then you fold again. So this way you can cut both the front and the back pattern together. But in case your full length is longer than the length of the fabric, so you have to fold in the opposite direction. Okay, so that's why I recommend that you buy 4 yards of fabric. So you fold into 2 like so, and then you lay it on the floor. That's the best place to cut. Okay, so now I've laid on the floor and I've placed my pattern. Make sure the center front is placed on the fold, and you add all your seam allowances round, which is 1/2 inch. I have my side seam allowance already, so I'm just cutting out. Okay, so I'm adding 1/2 inch to the hemline this way, and I'm just trimming out. Okay, so for me, I prefer to cut on the floor. So now that I'm done cutting, so obviously the front and back have the same neckline now. So what I'll do is I'm going to trim off the front neckline now. When I trim off the front neckline on the pattern, then I'll take one of the fabric and cut out the neckline for the front. Okay, so I'm going to separate the fabric now and cut out my front neckline. So just for the records, I did 4.5 inch for the neck width and 4 inch for the neck depth. So I've already separated it. I'm going to add 1/2 inch for seam allowance, and I'm cutting out. Okay, so this is my front piece. Now the next step is for you to cut your facing. The facing will serve as a lining, but your facing is a shorter version of the dress. So for me, I would want my facing to get up to a few inches below the armhole line. Okay, so that doesn't flip out. So that's like 3 or 4 inches below the armhole. So I'll go ahead and cut my facing. So this is it here. This is my back. I've already cut out my facing. You can see the neckline for the front. Sorry, the front neckline is deeper, so you can see my facing there. And okay, so now I will be I'm trying to separate the facing from the main dress. You have to cut the facing for both the front and the back. Okay, so like I said, it's just a shorter version of the dress, and that's the length of the facing. So now I will be sewing the facing and the main dress together, shoulder to shoulder. Okay, before I now join the front and back together at the shoulder. So this is my back piece, and I will be sewing into the front piece shoulder to shoulder, okay, with 1/2 inch seam allowance, or you can attach the facing directly to the front separately, facing to the back separately, and you join them together at the shoulder, whichever one works for you. But this is my facing here. Okay, so this is facing to facing, right? So If you're doing facing to facing, after you sew it, then you use it to turn the neckline of the dress. Okay, so I have joined my dress, okay, at the shoulder. This is it here. Yeah, so I've joined the dress and the facing together around the neckline rather, and this is my back piece, my front piece. I've joined the facing and the dress together around the neckline. So now I'll be joining front and back together at the shoulder, and make sure you're working with your pins. Okay, so this is my front piece together on my back piece. I'll sew with ½ seam allowance. Then I will be adding my basic sleeve. So if you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve, I will drop the link in the description box, okay, for my previous tutorial on how to draft a basic sleeve. So now I'll be attaching my basic sleeve to the dress, and then I'll show us how far. Okay, so here I've attached my sleeve to the dress. Okay, this is one side of the dress here, and the other sleeves here. Okay, so next step is to fix the pockets. So to do the pocket, you're going to place your dress on the table like so. Then you're going to measure from the highest point of the shoulder. Okay, from the highest point of the shoulder, you're going to be measuring 19 inches, and then you notch with your tape rule. So I would measure from tip here of my shoulder to where I have about 19 or 18 or 20. So I'll just create a notch with my scissors. I'll create a notch here, and then this is on the front, right? So now I'm going to place my front and back together, right side facing right side, and I want to use the notch I created on the front to also notch the back, so that they match up. So I'm just trying to pin. I'm trying to pin. Okay, so that's the notch I created on the front. I also need to notch the back, so I also use my scissors to create a notch on the back. So this point where I notch is going to be where the pockets will be starting from. Okay, so I have my pocket pieces already cut out. Okay, so I'm opening up my dress now. This is the front. Okay, and for my pocket pieces, I've already fixed the other side of my pocket, so I'm just explaining the second side. So this is the two pieces. So the two pieces here. So the dimension I used to cut out this, I cut out a rectangle. Yeah, I cut out a rectangle, and the width is 13 inches by 8 or 9. Okay, then you have to like create a slight curve on this other side of the pockets here. Okay, so you pick one of the pocket pieces, okay, and make sure right side face right side. Then I'll place one of the pocket piece on the notch part. Okay, so this is it here. The cuff part should be facing the hemline, so I'll place this right side facing right side where I have the notch there. I will pin it together and also pin it to, to the dress, just one of the pocket piece. Okay, then I will sew with 1 inch seam allowance because side seam allowance is 1 inch. Then of course the other side of my dress, I'll place the other pocket piece right side facing right side. Okay, so the reason why I was sewing with 1 inch is because the pocket is on the side and side seam allowance is 1 inch, right? So I'll just pin this Okay, so I also go and sew with 1 inch seam allowance. So I will do that, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So like I said, I have sewn the other side of my dress. It's just remaining this other side here. So what I'm left to do now is, this is the pocket here. Okay, so the dress does not have a zipper, so the only thing left for us to just do is to fix the pocket like I've done. Then I'll be sewing my side seam allowance of 1 inch, and I'll start sewing for my sleeve. Okay, 1 inch, also 1 inch. When I get to where the pocket is, I'll come down a bit by ½ inch, then I'll sew. Okay, I'll come down by ½ inch from the points where I've already sewn. This is 1 inch and ½ inch. I'll go in with ½ inch seam allowance. Make sure you pin. So this is half. By the time you come back to the side seam, you sew 1 inch all the way down, and you repeat the same process for the other side. So let me do that and show us the outcome. So this is the outcome of the dress. Okay, it's a very simple tutorial. So here's my pockets. There's no zipper, and my fabric is silk. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you learned 1 or 2 things. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. You can also leave your comments.